So the purpose of this conference call is to go over your ATM. So I want you to do to kind of set us up, like what's your mindset going into the home? What is your expectations? Do you do affirmations before you go in? How do you mentally set yourself up? And then take us through slide by slide from beginning to the end on how you do an appointment using the ATM. All right?
Cool. Okay. All right. So, again, my name is Justin Karsnitz. I was hired directly by Mike and Noel Leventovich, and that's who I work with. My hotspot is Louisville, Kentucky, and we say batter up down in Louisville, by the way. That's right, batter up. I learned from Sean Mike that you should never try to act like you're swinging a baseball bat if you don't know how to. He said, don't ever swing a baseball bat like that again. And I said, okay, I won't. So, just try to take the coaching when you get it. That's my motto. So anyways.
That's right.
But I've been here for about 7.5 years now, and like Alex is saying, it's been very recent that I've been focused on building a team, and we have hit Key Leader 3 months in a row. While just ramping up production and getting a steady higher level of production. Like our total team volume actually ended up being about 63,000 for the month of October. So we're cranking up, man. We should be agency manager here pretty soon. But I got an awesome team of people that are running with me. So, anyways, for the ATM, it's something that I kind of, in the beginning when it came out, I wasn't so sure about it, kind of like a lot of the other people in the company. And it was like, I've been doing it for a while, and why do I have to change? And, why do I have to use this thing? And then I started hearing Sean Mike talk about it, and Sean Mike's like the top guy in the whole company, and he starts using it. So I'm like, okay, I got no excuse not to use this. This is something that's important. It's duplicatable. We can teach our new people. Plus, that's a big thing. You can teach your new people better if you're using it yourself, how to use it, right? So anyways, so what I do when I'm coming to the house, like you were asking kind of the mindset, I learned a long time ago to always think about how this one's going to work out. I heard Andy Albright talking about that on a call one time. He said he wanted to always imagine that this next appointment or this next phone call or this next interview, this is the one that's going to work out. So I'm like, every time I'm walking into the home, I'm thinking this one is definitely going to work out. I'm not trying to think of like how the numbers are going one way or the other. I'm not trying to think about averages. I'm not trying to think about how many I did or didn't help already. I'm thinking this one will work out. Specifically, this family, it's going to work out. I guarantee, I know it will. Now, here's the thing. If it doesn't work out, I'll be like, okay, well, that one didn't work, whatever. Next. This next one will absolutely work out. It's like I erase the ones that didn't work out from my database of junk in my head, and I move forward toward the next one, always thinking this next one is definitely going to work out. And I think that's important because if you have that mindset, it will allow you to assume more, and you'll act as if a lot more, meaning that, give you a quick example. I walked up to a home one day that I had an appointment with that wasn't really very solidly booked. It was between two other appointments that I had, and I had a little bit extra time, and I told the people I'd swing by around this time. And so I just walked up to the door like I was supposed to be there, and I got to the door. Now, he greeted me at the door with a look of very much uncertainty on his face, as I'm sure some of you guys have experienced. But when I got up there, and I said, hey, I'm Justin, you must be John. I'm here for the appointment. And I kind of stepped towards the door, and he saw me stepping forward, so he backed up into the house, and I kind of walked in. And he still had this look in his face of like, okay, like, and what was this that's going on? Because he really didn't even remember that I had talked to anybody on the phone. And because I walked in the door, we ended up having a conversation, and I sat down with the husband and wife, and I wrote 2 applications, one on each one of them, for about $187 a month in total premium per month. So, I mean, I think about it, had I had the mindset of, I don't know if it's going to work, or given this guy the opportunity to tell me yes or no, it's okay to walk in the house, he might have said something like, it's not really the best time, why don't you come back later? And if I would have done that, I wouldn't have had that forward momentum going in the house. That's why I'm saying it's so important to always imagine that this is the one, or believe, not just imagine, but believe this is the one that's going to absolutely work out. So, anyways, so as far as like coming into the house, that's my whole mindset. And I walk in the home, and I just kind of start talking to them about how long they've lived there, and Do they have family in the area? I try to just find some kind of common ground quickly. I think Mark Wormack does an amazing job at building rapport with people, so if you ever hear how he does it, I try to follow that method. I try to find one thing that we have in common and drill down on that. And I don't do it with just one person. I try to do that with both spouses in the home, because if you only do it with one of them, then the other one's not going to like you as much. But if you do it with both of them and you go back and forth between both of them, talking to them both, then you're connecting with both of them. And there's a third part that I think that I used to miss that's extremely important. So when you're in the house and you're starting to build rapport with John, and then you're starting to build rapport with Mary, you got to make sure that also you're building them having rapport with each other. Okay, and the way that I found out how to do that was I was having a conversation with Bill Cook, one of our top sales guys, and he said what he does is he likes to talk about their relationship and build up that idea of the love and the family and what got them together in the first place. So I started asking them questions about how long ago did they meet, how long had they been together, how many years was it before they got married, or how long was it before they got married, who was chasing who. Like when you say ask who was chasing who after you found out how long they've been together, that typically will get a smirk out of one of them. So you want to get them thinking about what it was like in the beginning of their relationship when they were just madly in love with each other and they were starting out and getting together. And, what was the whole reason they got together in the first place? Because once they start thinking of that, all of a sudden the fight that they had yesterday over the insurance guy coming to their house is vanished. It's not there anymore. Because now they're thinking about how much they really care about each other. Because nobody buys life insurance if they don't care about somebody. That's the thing. If you don't have a concern about another person, logically, if we only did things based on logic, no one would ever buy life insurance, ever.
Yeah.
Because logically, we're going to be dead. Why would we buy it? There's no point. So if there's another person there that we care about that is going to be messed up financially when we're gone, that's when it makes sense to do it. So this is all just kind of the build up to the ATM, right? Because I'm talking to them about this stuff before I even open the ATM up. So, but during this time, I'm setting things up, and I'm typically not slow, but I on purpose don't rush to set the ATM up because it gives me more time to talk and connect and bond. And I like tell people I have ADD. When I get there, I said, between me and my wife, we're pretty sure I got ADD, and that normally gets a laugh. But that also gives me something where while I'm in the house, I'll get distracted about talking to them, and they'll be like, oh yeah, big, and then I look back at the presentation almost as if it's this thing that's just kind of there with me. However, it is crucially important. So I get to the ATM and I get it opened up, and I open up the first page and it said we are a National Alliance of Agents. Okay, so. Here, one I don't read it word for word. I use it more as a cue to talk about. However, I do talk about what's on each page when I'm there. Okay, so I'll kind of walk through exactly what I'm going through with the client. So after we've talked about them for a while, I'll normally make some kind of a comment like, well, obviously I can tell you guys care about each other. That's probably why you sent this card in the first place. Well, anyways, and I look at the ATM and say, this, like it says here, we are an alliance of agents. What we do is we help people with their mortgage protection benefits, like you guys had sent this card in for today. We also do help with final expense insurance, making sure people have their burial expenses covered and all the other final expenses. And we also help people make sure that their retirement is protected so that people don't outlive the money that they have. So anyways, but you guys sent the card in about mortgage protection, so that's what we'll focus on for today. And I'm nodding my head while I'm saying this because that kind of gets them nodding their head typically. And also, make sure you smile. I learned from a book that I read that if you smile while you talk to people, which is kind of a tough skill to learn, but if you can actually make your smile while you're talking to them, you'll actually get and people will like you a whole lot more and connect with you better. So try to learn to do that. Practice in front of a mirror when you have a chance. Anyways, and then I flip the page to number 2, and it's got the About Me section. And it depends on the person how I'll handle this. Sometimes if they're just kind of going with the flow, I might just go ahead and start reading stuff, depending on how out. Sometimes it's already come out that I grew up in Pennsylvania and moved to Kentucky when I was 16. So I might look at it and say, oh, I already told you I moved to Kentucky when I was 16. And then I might mention, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, the reason we moved down here is because my church had this ministry where we help people with getting household goods, and we'd get clothing and stuff from people that didn't need it anymore, and we'd bring it down to Kentucky and give it out to all the poor folk down here. And we did that for years until my whole family ended up moving down as a part of our church. But it's like I'm using this to connect with the people, mainly not so much to talk about me, though. Mainly I'm looking for things that I can talk to them about them, and then I relate it back to me. because the show's not Justin. It's not the Justin show. I'm not trying to explain to them who I am per se. I mean, yes, I want to give them some information about me, but the main thing is I'm trying to find out about them. So I won't necessarily read through every bullet point. What I'll do is in conversation while I'm talking to them and I find out that they have kids or that they're, obviously they're married, I might point to the thing. It's like I might say, oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot to tell you I'm married. I got a wife and a little girl. She's 4 right now. And I'll only mention that I've been doing this for 7 years. I've been telling them how long I've been doing it. And depending on what they say, like when I'm talking to them, if they mention that they went to college, I might say, yeah, well, Eastern Kentucky. Here's another thing, too. When you pull up the About Me page, you don't even really have to say much about it because a lot of times they'll just look at it and read it while you're talking to them about other stuff. Or maybe I'm engaging with the husband, the wife is looking at it, and then she might go, oh, you went to Eastern. I had a cousin that went to Eastern. Or they might comment on something else, or so it's kind of a cue for me to be talking about them and then relating myself to them, if that makes sense. So, anyways, and then at some point I just act like I'm impatient and say, here, let me show you something that I really like to show people. Then I go to the next slide. It's got a picture of my little girl smiling, and it's like that's my little baby Alice right there, and it's like she's eating her grapes, and that's my wife Shayna up there above me and her. It's a couple of years back. My hair's not quite as long as it was back then. And then I point to my insurance license and I say, and this right here, this is what keeps me from going to jail, because you don't want to have be helping with insurance and not have an insurance license. And so I'm saying things. I kind of say things like that just to try to get people to laugh. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I learned from Mike Leventovich that if they're not laughing, it's not funny. So that's a good sign that you probably should change something. So, anyways. It's all of these 2 pages, the About Me, it's all designed to get them talking about them. Even though it says About Me, it's about them talking about them and then just me kind of relating to them briefly. I do not talk about me very much. I just ask them questions about them, and then in the process of asking them questions, I'll point to something and quickly relate it to me in one way or the other, because really, people only really care about themselves anyways. I mean, not only, but it's like that's what their most favorite subject in the world is themselves. So you get them talking about themselves, they will like you. So anyways, I say the word anyways a lot, by the way, while I'm in the home, because it's a good transition word and it kind of moves you along. So I'll be looking at my little girl there and I'll be like, anyways, and then I'll flip to the next chart or the next page, say, yeah, that's right. We do work with a whole bunch of different insurance companies. Like you guys have probably heard of Mutual Omaha before. Right. And then I always say, it's like they have that show on TV. It's got the animals. Do you remember that? It was like wild something. Wild, and then they'll normally say Wild Kingdom. It's like, yeah, that's it. It had that Marlon. It wasn't Marlon Brando. What was his name? Marlon Perkins. That's right, Marlon Perkins. It's like I let them answer the question because that kind of gets them more engaged. So, anyways, so then I'm like pointing things out. It's like basically my job is I help people figure out which one of the different insurance companies out there have the best benefits for what they need and that they can actually qualify for. Because a lot of people don't realize, but a lot of insurance companies, if you try to apply with them, you won't be able to get qualified for the benefits. So it's important that you find out which company actually will approve it before you send the application in, or it might mess up your records and might hurt you for being able to apply at other companies. And I'm nodding my head, and they're normally nodding their head back. Yeah, that makes sense. So I'll go over a couple of them. I might say, like Monumental, like where I live in Louisville, Kentucky, there's a big building down here that was owned by Transamerica, so I might make reference to that. Or I might just say Monumental, great company. It's been around for a long time. Foresters, and then I normally comment Foresters. I love them. They're set up as a fraternal society, and they take all the profits that they make and they give them out to the Children's Miracle Network and programs against child abuse and build playgrounds and do really good stuff for communities. So anyways, we just like to work with a whole bunch of different companies to help people figure out what's the best fit for them. So that's kind of how I cover these things. So, and then I go to the next slide. Now on the next slide, what I do is I just kind of take the lead and like look at it and hold it out to them and say, okay, so what was the main concern that you guys had when you sent this back into us? Like what was first off, who sent the letter in? So, and normally they'll say, oh, it was John that sent it in, or whatever. And they'll say, great, John. So when you had sent this in, what was your main concern? Like what were you thinking about? And I'll just let him talk. So then depending on his response, I just kind of let him talk about it a little bit. And also, this is kind of a part where I go into a little bit more fact-finding information. So, like, if you guys know, there's another page, a couple of pages ahead, which says a little bit about you. Well, some of these questions I start asking right here because I like to find out and flesh out this part about why they sent the card in, what was behind everything. And it helps me just keep my mind right on the whole picture of why they need this and what's going on in their mind. So I kind of just like figure out what was their main concern. And like, let's say something had already happened last week. What would you want me doing to help your family out? Would obviously you guys wouldn't want me come back saying like, hey, sorry, he had to think about it and he didn't commit to anything for you guys to take care of you. I'm guessing you guys probably would rather me say something like, here's your tax-free check. This will pay off your mortgage payments. And so I'm just kind of laying those options out for them and just kind of nodding my head. I don't really, like personally, I just don't give them the option to say yes or no to those or pick one of them. I just kind of say, obviously you would want this one. But then I am very specific about asking them what would happen if we didn't take care of this today? Like what would actually be the consequences of it? Because you want people to be realistic about it. And I find that if they're realistic with themselves and with each other about what's going to happen, and they actually kind of paint the picture of what that would look like, they're a lot more likely to think about this the right way. Because remember, I've already got them earlier to talk about their relationship with each other, so they remembered that they do love each other. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't be together, right? So I got them to think about that. So they got their mindset right, but now we're thinking about what is the logic that backs up the emotion that they have. Because they don't really want their spouse to have to move in with mom after they die. So I'll say, like, Mary, so where would you go? Like, what would happen? And she might say, well, I'd have to sell the house. It's like, well, wow, how long would it take to sell the house? It's like, well, I don't know. It'd take me a little while. Like, what's the longest you've seen a house take to sell? Oh, geez, this one house sat on the market for about 18 months before it sold. Oh, wow. So you'd need some time to make sure you had time to sell it if you had to. It's like, do you want to have to even sell the house? No, I'd rather just live here. Okay. I gotcha. And then I'm starting to ask those questions, and I'll flip the lead over and start asking, okay, well, let me get some basic information from you. And I go right into that right here before I move on. I'll say, okay, so what is the mortgage amount? It's like $75,000. And what's your mortgage payment? $526 a month. And I'm writing all this down, like taking notes. Okay, how many years was the mortgage for? Well, it was a 30-year mortgage. Okay, so I write 30 years down. Okay, and let's see, what kind of an interest rate did they give you? Oh, we got 3.25%. It's like, really? 3.25%? That's pretty good. It's like, heck yeah. Was this a refinance or a new loan? Oh, it was a refinance. Really? What was your interest rate before that? It's like, oh, it was like 6.5%. It's like, so man, you guys must have saved a lot of money on your payments. And then either it's like, yeah, we did. We went down from like $800 down to $500, or I might say something like, no, actually we took it from a 30-year loan and dropped it down to a 15-year loan, but we kept about the same price. But either way, you're uncovering and kind of finding information out. So I learn about the mortgage first, and then I go into say, okay, so what about income? Let's see, Mary, what kind of an income per month do you have coming in from your job? Say, oh, I have $1,200 a month. Okay, cool. Is that the only source of income you got? Yep. Okay. All right. What about you, John? What sources of income do you have? It's like, well, I got my work and I'm making about $2,800 a month. Okay. Got it. So I write that down on the page and I put their names at the top and their age, and I'm just kind of filling this out like as we go down the page, their incomes underneath their names, right? So that way, after I get through the income, the next thing I ask them about is what kind of life insurance benefits do you already have? Like, do you have anything at work? Do you have anything personally? I'm trying to uncover everything that's going on. This is also the time that I would get them to get out their current policies if they have another policy so we know what they got, so we can review it. And I won't get into how to do a policy review right now or how to get them to get it out, but that is an important thing to work on, getting them to get their policies out so that you can learn more about what they got. So let's say they already have $50,000 in coverage apiece, and it's through their job or something like that. Say, oh, wow. So if you don't have your job anymore, you don't have any coverage then, right? It's like, no, I guess I don't. It's like, okay, so I'll put an X through their coverage, the amount of coverage that they have, so, to kind of drive that home. So anyway, so I get that information, then I ask them about, okay, what about any money that you guys have that could be used to help offset the mortgage in case of a death? Like, do you have any retirement accounts, or do you have any CDs or savings accounts, or, anything like a lump sum of cash? Do you have a 401k or an IRA? Do you have any kind of a stock or what kind of stuff do you have that could help out at that time? So I ask it that way. I'm just trying to get them to kind of lay everything out. Now, if I did a good job at building rapport earlier on, they got no problem telling me this information. They'll tell me everything I ask them about. If I did a bad job at building rapport earlier on, they're going to be hesitant to tell me stuff. So that's kind of a good litmus test if you're good at rapport or not, because if they don't want to tell you information, you probably did a bad job at building rapport with them early on. So you need to spend either more time doing it or learn how to get deeper and connect with them better. So anyways, gathering this information. So then I got a picture basically in front of me of their financial situation. So I'm seeing their income, their mortgage amount and the payments. I see the life insurance that they currently have and the money that they have that could be used to help out if they didn't have any other benefits. Okay. So then I say, okay, now if I'm thinking about this right, Bob or John, it looks like that when you pass away, obviously your income will stop, right? And he'll say, well, yeah. So I'll draw a big X through his name and through the income. So his $2,800 a month is gone. So Mary, that means you have your $1,200 a month. So what kind of position are you going to be in whenever that happens? And then I'll just let her talk. And if John starts piping up, I'll say, whoa, hold on, John, you're dead. Dead people can't talk. So it's like I kind of put him in his place because it's not him that's dealing with it at that point. It's her. He's gone. She's the one that has to deal with this. So anyway, so I get her to start talking. Well, I'd move in. I'd probably have to move in with my mom, or I'd have to sell the house, or whatever it is. And so I get her to kind of go through that and talk about any kind of situations. Like if they have kids, I'll ask specifics like, so if you have to move in with your mom, like how many bedrooms does she have at her house? It's like, well, she's got 2 spare bedrooms, okay? And you have how many kids? I have 3 kids, and they're all under 18, right? Okay, so it'd be you and your mom and your dad, they have 1 bedroom, and then you'd get a bedroom, I guess, and then do all 3 of the kids have to share the other bedroom? Okay. So I'm trying to get them to think through the actual, what it would look like. What is the actual circumstances that they're going to be going through? I'm just asking questions. I'm not telling them, by the way. I'm not telling them, oh, my gosh, wow, you're going to have to move in with your mom. No, I mean, I don't want to tell them that because then they won't want to listen to it. Nobody likes to be told something. But I will ask them what's going to happen, what's that going to look like, where would you go, who would have to go there with you, do they have any backup options, how long is it going to be before everyone's driving each other crazy over at your mom's house. Plus, a lot of that stuff will get a laugh. So, anyways. So once I get a good picture of that, what's going on one side, I'll look at the other side too. I'll say, okay, what about on your side, Mary? What if when you pass away, what's that going to look like for you, John? And so I'll draw an X through her income because that income's gone, right? Yeah, okay. All right, so John, what kind of position are you in? So maybe he's in a similar position. It's like, well, that $1,200 a month, I need that to make sure that all the bills are paid or we can't take care of the kids. Say, okay, wow, so you'd have to, like, what would happen? So I'll walk him through his scenario. So I make sure to do it on both sides because it might be that they both need it or it might be that only one person needs it. I don't know yet. I gotta let them tell me. So I'm not trying to convince them that they need something. I'm letting them sell me that they need this stuff based on their situation. All I'm doing is asking questions and gathering information and kind of asking questions to guide them to give me answers that make sense. So anyways, we get them to go through all that, and then after they both told me what's going to happen, then that's when I just say, yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. I can understand why you guys sent this letter back into us. So that's how I cover the what if page. So it's kind of drawn out, and it's kind of a mixture of that, a little bit about you page also that comes down the road. So you can use that thing to spur you for the questions to ask if you're using this strategy. But the bottom line is you're just uncovering what's going to happen. That's what I want to find out. So then I go to the next page. Also, before I go too far through what is mortgage protection, I always like to find out what kind of health situations have they had. Because I don't want to be shocked when I find out that they both had cancer last week and they're going through chemotherapy, and I just told them about how they can cover their whole mortgage. I don't want to talk about covering a $100,000 loan if they just had cancer last week, because that would kind of set them up for a higher expectation. I want to underpromise and overdeliver as much as possible. So anyways, so I get to the end of finding out what's going on and what's going to happen, and then I say, so what's going on health-wise with you guys? Like, what has happened in the past? I just kind of let them talk for a little bit. I'm just trying to find some basic information at this point. Like, do you guys take any medicines, or did you take medicines in the past that you're not currently taking? Have you had any major surgeries? treatments, procedures, hospital visits, anything in the past that's happened, any other doctor's visits? No. Are you guys like criminals? Do you like to go rob banks and stuff, or have you killed anybody? No? Okay, that's good. Let's see, do you guys like to do drugs, or have you had any drugs or alcohol abuse in the past, DUIs, driving record problems? Do you like to jump out of airplanes a lot? No? No? Okay. So it's like I'm saying things in kind of a real, like, straightforward way and kind of deadpan almost, because sometimes that'll get a laugh, or sometimes I'll smile while I say it, just depending. So you got to be careful, though, because if you're like, it's like, have you ever had any kind of criminal background, and you say it, like, laughing, and then they're like, yeah, I did. Because sometimes they did. So you don't want to, like, make a joke out of it because that might offend them. But, you know, it's like you just want to find out the information and let them laugh about the questions you're asking, because it's like you never know. Some people might have those things. So anyways, then I ask about tobacco. I say, in your lifetime, what kind of tobacco or nicotine products have you ever used? So I get them to, like, tell me that. I don't say, do you smoke or do you use tobacco, because that's a dumb way to ask the question. If you ask that, then they'll say no, because they quit yesterday again. And they've not used any tobacco since yesterday, because they quit. But if you know, and they'll be adamant that they are not a smoker because they quit yesterday. But if you ask them the right way, have you ever used any tobacco or nicotine products in your lifetime? Then they'll say, oh, well, yeah, I smoked cigarettes like 8 months ago. And now I'm not saying, you're a smoker. No, I'm just going to be like, okay, cool. And I just note it, and I don't, like, make a big deal of it. It's just like, yes, they're a smoker, great, whatever. I'll calculate that in the price, and I'll say, this is your price. I don't say, here's your smoker, your rate, because you're a smoker rate, you're getting a smoker rate because you got to pay more money. Ha! No, I don't say that. It's more along the lines of just okay, here's your price. You know, when we get to that point, but that's I'm not there yet. Anyways, I told you I have ADD. We go, I find out about what they have health-wise going on, and if they have anything that kind of lets me know what kind of programs I should even be talking about. And then I get to the next page where it says, what is mortgage protection? So, and then I will go through this one pretty straightforward. So I'll say, like, a mortgage protection, basically what this does is whenever you die, there's a check. And I don't use the word beneficiary. It says it on the ATM. I don't say beneficiary. Mark Womack says don't say beneficiary because people don't use that word in their everyday language, right? So I try to talk to them in how they would normally talk. So I'll say, John, so when you die, Mary, you get a check. And I actually take my hands as if I'm holding a check with two hands, and I reach it across the table as if I'm handing her the check with two hands. So I like them to see the image of that because it makes it more real. So I make that gesture. Mary, you get the check as I'm reaching towards her. So, and then John, when Mary passes away, then you get the check, and then I reach towards him. So I'm letting them know that that's what's going to happen at that time. And I don't say beneficiary. Anyways, and then I say, no, it doesn't matter what the cause of death is. It could be an accident or it could be a sickness, anything at all that happens to you when you die. As long as you don't commit suicide in the next 2 years, they will give you that check. Make sense? Okay. And then I'll say the weird part is that if you do commit suicide after 2 years, they will still give you the check. I don't even know how that works, but I've seen it happen. I didn't used to believe that worked. And they'll be like, oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. It's like, yeah, it actually covers suicide after 2 years. So anyways. So, and then also the benefits that you get, the benefits are level throughout whatever price lock that you choose for yourself. So if you choose a 15-year, 20-year, 30-year, or a permanent price lock, the price is locked in the whole time. You will not see increases in price strictly based on your health. Like if you had a health situation or you had a heart attack or you had an accident or something happen, they won't jack the price up on you. Also, the benefit never loses any value for that lock. So if you lock it in for 15 years, you got the same benefit the whole time. If it's tomorrow or 14 years down the road, they would always give that $100,000 check to Mary when you die. So no value will be lost through the program. Also, if the bank gets sold to another bank, or if you guys refinance or move to a different house, this can go with you to every house that you live in, or even if you don't live in a house, you can live in an apartment and still keep the benefits. It's totally portable. It'll follow you wherever you go. So I find sometimes people have seen where, a bank got sold to another bank or a loan got sold to another bank, and all of a sudden they lost all their benefits. So they need to know that they can keep this regardless of what's going on. So anyways, I basically just cover all of those points there on the pays the mortgage off when you die and all that stuff. All right, so anyways, and then another great option that some people do, and I'll hammer on this more if they told me they have health conditions going on or if they're older. Okay, because I want them to know it's okay not to cover the whole mortgage. So I say, now, another great thing that a lot of people do is just because it will take time to sell the house. Remember, we talked about how it would take you probably at least 18 months to sell the house, and you probably wouldn't want to move out the day after he dies anyways because you'd need some time. Well, what you can do is also set up something called mortgage payment protection, which is a program that whenever you pass away, John, Mary, you're going to get about 12 months or 24 months or 36 months worth of the mortgage payment so that at least you have the time that you can sell this house and get the equity out of it. Because you said the house is worth $150,000, right? But you only owe $100,000, so that $50,000 is your money. Do you love your bank a whole lot? Do you love them enough to give them $50,000 whenever you die? That's your money? No. Okay, that's what this does. It makes sure that you get to keep that money in the family instead of giving that money to the bank if they have to foreclose because you didn't have the money to make the payments. Make sense? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool. Let's see. And now disability. Disability, I'm not a huge fan of trying to push disability, mainly because it's hard as anything to get it qualified. And there's a lot of restrictions on it. There's a lot of health things. You have to have the right kind of job. You can't have disability benefits already if it's a coordinating benefit. So typically I'll say, do you guys have disability benefits at your job already? And if they say yes, I'm like, oh, thank God. So I'll be like, all right, so disability, you can't get it anyways. The government won't let us do anymore because you'd pay for it, and then when the time came to claim for it, they wouldn't let you get the benefit anyway. So it's probably better if you don't have to pay for something you can't claim anyways, right? Yeah, okay, cool. If they're really pushing for disability, I'll have a conversation about it and look at it. So it just depends. But I try to not focus on something because if it comes back and they get declined for the disability, that might make them mad enough that they want to cancel the whole policy. I'd rather just get them a policy in force that they're going to keep because they care about the death benefit primarily. So, but if they really push for disability, that's kind of another, I won't get into that. That's a different discussion. So then also I'll mention the return premiums remember I asked about the health stuff and their ages and stuff before. If they can't qualify for a return of premium, I won't talk about it. If they ask about it, I'll be like, yeah, there's some benefits where you can get all your money back. It does cost a lot more, though. So I can sell them towards it or away from it, depending on the situation, on what they actually need. Okay. So anyway, I talk about the return premium. If it makes sense, it's a great benefit. If they're young enough or they would qualify for it or whatever, or they could get it. So you can get all the money back. There's no taxes on it. And when you live to the end of the term, it's like a refund of all the money you paid in. And, you don't have to pay any taxes on the money when you get it back, so that's great. So I'll show you the prices both ways. So that's part of just the options that I show on it. So anyways, all right, so then I go to the next slide, and what happens next? And so this is where I take my piece of paper, and I kind of wish I could draw it out for you guys, but I'll try to just describe what I say, because it's basically telling them the exact same thing that's right here on the what happens next page, because you got to tell them this before you show them any benefits. So Alex, I think that's one thing we found out when we were talking with Dexter the other day, that because he's still learning the process, he was starting to tell him prices before he even really told him how the benefits worked. So we were able to tweak what he was doing in his process, and oh my gosh, he was like, oh, that's such an eye-opener. It's like, okay, I was just doing it backwards. So it actually makes a big difference which order you go through the ATM, because if you do it the wrong order, it will mess stuff up. Because before you show prices, you got to tell them what's going to happen next. It's kind of like going to the dentist. If the dentist doesn't tell you he's about to stick a big needle in your mouth and he just comes like at you real fast with a needle in his hand, that might freak you out a little bit. But if he comes and tells you, he's like, yeah, we have a needle, I'm going to stick it in your mouth, it's going to pinch a little bit, and then you're going to feel some pressure. It's like he's warning you ahead of time because it prepares you and gets you ready to handle it. Okay, so that's what this page is for. So the way I do it is I say, okay, here's what we're going to do today. My job is I'll help you figure out which one of the programs and which company fits your situation best, kind of like we talked about before. Then we'll take an application today with a check for the first month of payment, and we'll send that into the insurance company for approval. It's going to take them a week or two to figure stuff out, see if you're going to be approved for it. Now, they'll come back and either they'll say yes or no. Now, if they say no, they're going to mail your check back to you. I actually draw like a little diagram on the paper, which I can't draw over the phone, but anyways, it's basically going through the same stuff. So you can just tell them, and it still works.
Just send it to me. Send it to me.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll draw it. It's just a little picture. You just kind of walk them through that, little arrows going around. I learned it from Dane Levine a long time ago. So anyways, it's like we're going to send it to the company. They're going to say yes or no. If they say no, I'll draw an arrow back to you. They'll send your check back, and then we'll try one of the other companies because, remember, we can work with whoever we want to help you get the benefits. And then nod my head, and they start nodding their head. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. So then after we find someone that says yes, they mail a policy to you, and you get your policy in the mail. And at that point, if you want to make any adjustments to it, after you've thought about it for a while, you can take the benefits up or you can take them down or you can adjust it however you want to, but all you have to do is let me know. Does that make sense? Yeah. And Mary, will that make you feel better knowing that when John passes away, we're getting this taken care of for you? Yeah, of course. Okay, cool. All right. So this is when I pull out my computer, my calculator, and I go to the little bit about you page, and I make sure that I've got all the information, as I'll be like, let's see. Oh, yeah, by the way, do you guys have any criminal background in case I forgot to ask them or whatever? Any military background? Are you in the military currently? You are U.S. citizens, right? Yeah, okay. So I make sure I get all the other information, make sure I have everything I need. So most of this I already have because I collected this earlier. This is one part where it's not 100% required to do in the same order. Actually, I think they have an adjusted ATM that came out too, right? Because this is a version. This is the last version that I've still not updated yet. So sorry, I'm behind the times. I think I'm losing my voice. Anyways, so I make sure I got all the information, then I start going through and I find out which company makes sense best for them. Now, at this point, if you're brand new or if you don't know yet, this is where you would probably want to call somebody that can help you to get a good recommendation of which company is going to be the best fit, because you don't want to write them a company that's going to get declined. Okay, so consult with your the agent guides and the accept reject list. If they're in perfect health, if you've done this before, go for it. You take your product and run with it. But one thing I don't do is I don't give them like 8 different products to choose from. I pick the product. I pick it based on what they've told me. I'm the one who's been doing this. I'm the one who has my insurance license. All of you guys have your insurance licenses, for most of you anyways. So you're the one who picks the product based on their situation, and then they just pick the options on the way that specific product is set up. Like, is it a $100,000 death benefit, $200,000, $150,000, whatever it is. I let them pick based on their budget. So anyways, and I lay out a couple options for them. Say, here's option 1, option 2, option 3. I just write it on the back of the lead. I don't have like a quote page like this written out. I just write down here's number. Or the first one is 150,000. Here's 100,000. Here's 50,000. Or whatever the 3 options are that I'm thinking they're going to make sense. So I let them say. Then I say. I kind of go through each one, the specifics, like let's say it's the Term Life Express product, and we're talking about how, okay, here's the free stuff that's on there. I always, before I lay the actual price out, by the way, I don't lay the price out until I go through what specific benefits do for them. Okay, so now I've narrowed it down to the product. Okay, here's how the product works. When you die, remember I said it pays off the loan. Well, here's the check amount. It pays $100,000 at death. If it's an accident, it will double the benefit. If it's a common carrier where you're riding on something that pays a fare, you pay a fare for, like a bus or plane or train, then they'll give another death benefit. They'll give it 3 times the amount at that point. So, and then I talk about the residential damage. I go through every rider that's on there because I'm building the value of the product. Okay, so the accelerated death benefit, if you're terminally ill, this will give you money that you can use while you're terminally ill, maybe pay for some health care or some treatment that saves your life if it's an experimental treatment, who knows. But that's money you could actually use. So this is where, if anything that we do is sales, I guess this is it. Because this is where you're really talking to them about how the benefit works. But really, they already told you what they want. So you're kind of just walking them through, here's how it works. Okay, now, does this cover everything you needed, or am I missing anything? Nope, that's everything we needed. Okay, perfect. I always ask that first before I go through for the prices. John, by the way, do you guys have any kind of headache medicine? Mary, do you guys have any kind of headache medicine here at the house? And be like, yeah, hold on a second, let me get you some. It's like, oh, no, I was going to say you guys should take it before I show you the prices. I don't want you to get a headache after I show you the numbers. So then I'll chuckle a little bit. Normally that gets them laughing because I'm trying to stretch their mind a little bit and make them think, oh, wow, it's going to be a huge price. Oh, my gosh, I can't afford it. It's going to be giant. And then I come back and I'm like, yep, Mary, it looks like, okay, John, yours is about $82 a month for this one, and it's about $78 or $71 for this one, and about $61 for this one. And I just lay out a couple prices, or whatever they are. Maybe it's 120, 85, and 42. I lay out the prices for John, lay out the prices for Mary, and say, so as far as a budget standpoint, because now if I made them expect a high price, now they're like, oh, well, that's not so bad. So I make them expect a high price, show them the prices, and then say, so from a budget perspective and from a protection perspective, of course, which one of these programs fits the best for you guys? And then I already have the application on the table, by the way. I've had that sitting on the table ever since I found out which program I was going to write, like a few slides ago. So I pull that out, and I just got it sitting there. And then I'll start writing stuff down on the application. Like I'm putting his name down. I'll be putting down his age, anything I already know, his birthday, his address, until they start getting to the point where, because normally at this point they're like looking at it and discussing and be like, let's see, well, this one here, if we could do this one, and Mary, we could do this one on you, and John, we could do this one on you or on me, and then we could have it that way, because we could afford that, right? That's 40 plus 62, so that's like about $100 a month. Yeah, we can swing $100 a month. Okay. So remember, I'm assuming this one is going to work, which is why I'm filling out the application a while. There's no point not to fill it out, because why would I want to sit there and wait for them to say, yes, I'm going to take this one, because I'm assuming they're going to take one of them or both of them. So I'm just writing on the application. Okay. So, and plus I've already found out too, like if it's John and Mary that want the coverage, well, I'm going to start on the one that was more important. Like it's like, well, John definitely, he's got the primary source of income. Mary's going to be really messed up. And John might have said, well, I'd probably be okay, but I'd like to see what it is on her too. So I'm going to start on his application, filling it out, because he's the one it's pretty sure he's going to take care of the benefit. So anyways, and I'll make sure I'm getting this wrapped up quick because we're getting over time here. So we get them to figure out which one they want, and they're pointing at the one that they like. I'm filling out the whole application, get through that, and then I got the ATM there still in front of me, and just that quote page, I kind of wait there at that point, and I go through the whole application, get to the end of it, fill it out, get the check for the first month of payment, or get a voided check. For however you're going to be doing it, whatever, get all the bank information, get everything signed here. Let me get a couple autographs from you, get them to sign everything. And then after everything's signed and finished and I got a paper clip on it, it's all together, say, oh, that's right, got to do your emergency network. So I pull out my emergency response network sheet and I say, the emergency network, and I go ahead and fill that out. I won't train on how to do that right now, but this is just a step of the process. And I get the prescription discount card out. I say, oh, that's right, you got to get your discount card. It's like, it's literally the ATM is reminding me at each point what I have forgot, because I have ADD. So this helps me remember the stuff that I forget. Or like the other night I was at a house and it was like 10:30 at night and we were filling out the application and I kept looking over at the ATM and looking back, and he looked at me looking at it, and I just said, yeah, well, at the end of the night I get kind of sleepy, so this thing helps me not forget anything. And he goes, oh, okay, that makes sense. So anyways, so I get the prescription drug card, I get the referrals from those things, then I get to the safe money part. Hey, by the way, guys, are you guys more like savers or investors at this point in your life? It's like, well, we're kind of savers at this point. We can't. It's like, can you really afford to lose any of the money that you guys have? Like, no, we can't afford to lose anything, really. Okay, because I know you told me earlier that you had this IRA that you had from your old 401k that you rolled over a couple of years back. So do you have any kind of concern that you're going to outlive that money that you have? It's like, well, yeah, I had thought about it. It's like I figured that the markets have been going up and down. We've not really. It's like you have people like, yes, that account has driven me crazy. They'll tell you all kinds of things. But so I'm trying to find out what's their concern about that, and then I try to use the stuff that Matt Smith talks about, or you might even just say the line that's on there. Did you guys know that there was a way that you could have an account, or you could reallocate your money in a way that if the market was doing well, you would be able to share in the upside, but when the market went down, you don't lose anything, and it would guarantee your money the rest of your life, that you could live off of it forever without ever running out of money. It's like, no, I didn't know that. So I'm not necessarily like pointing to the ATM and making them read this. I'm just trying to have a conversation to uncover the situation instead of trying to talk specifics. And then based on that, I'll book an appointment to come back later, like the following week or whatever, to come back and talk to them about it. I'll leave them a Growth Without Risk book. I got a whole bunch of those in my car always with me. So I got a bunch of them stockpiled. Give them a book, say, hey, can you read this before I come back next week? So anyways, Matt Smith does a great job teaching on how to BAM-FAM that. So then if they're younger, I'll probably talk about the tax-free retirement on the next slide. Have you guys saved up any money for retirement yet? I just kind of walk them through the picture of it to kind of let them know what I can do to help them out. So, and then the best thing, like those slides are more for uncovering other potential things that you can do to help them out further. But the most important part of this whole thing at this point is the final question slide. And that's where you come back and say, hey, before I go, guys, and I'll even slide the application back to them and say, here, before I take this, and I give him or her, really, I try to pick out whoever is the person that I think is the most likely to want to cancel it, or who's the decision maker or whatever. If they were to, I give it to them. And I say, here, John, before I take this, I got to ask you something. I don't want you guys thinking this is a commitment you're making to me or to some insurance company, because bottom line, this is a commitment you're making to your wife. to Mary, to whenever you pass away, that she's got a home taken care of. So I just want to make sure, do you guys feel pretty good about taking care of the family for the $86 a month or the $110 a month? Yeah? Okay. Is there anything you can think of that would cause you to not be able to afford this in the future? Like if like the water heater broke or the car got messed up and you had to go fix the car and it was like $1,000 bill, would you have to cancel this to make it happen? No? Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure that we're sure it fits the budget for you. Everything's cool on that. And, okay, and we're doing this for the right reason. Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure. And normally, at this point, they're looking at you like you're crazy, and then they're like, no, here, yeah, take this. You need this, right? Yeah. They'll, like, push the application back to you because I want them to give it back to me again at this point. So, anyways. Okay, and anyways, I'll follow up with you guys here in a couple days and make sure if you guys have any questions, make sure you let me know. And then once we get the policy issued, call me as soon as you get it, or I'll come back out here as soon as I'm in the area, and we'll go over it again. Make sure that you guys don't have any other questions. Anything else I can do to help you guys out or any other questions? No? Okay, cool. So, by the way, and this is while I'm walking out the door, by the way, do you guys know anyone else that could do what I just did or that might be interested in making like an extra $500 a week or so? My manager, he's hiring people that are, intelligent, responsible, and ambitious, and he's looking for some sharp people on here. Do you know anyone who's looking for some extra income? So I'm just trying to find out, is there anybody at all that might be a fit for working for the team? And you'll find people sometimes where they might, if maybe not them, they might know somebody. So whatever. But that's pretty much how I cover everything, Alex. Any other stuff you want me to cover, or any other questions for me or anything like that?
Hey, Justin, it's Chandel here. Alex had to run, but he did want me to thank you very much for taking the time to go through that, and I do want to open the line up for some questions here, if you don't mind. Do you have a few minutes?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, just one second. Let me get everybody unmuted here. Okay, everybody. I got everybody unmuted, so who has questions for Justin?
Hey, Justin, this is Dexter. Hey, first of all, I want to thank you for sharing this information with us because it was really good information. On the What Happens Next page, where you was talking about what you learned from Dan Levine, you saying something about, here's what we're going to do today. Could you reiterate on that, please?
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll get to that point where we're going to – basically, I want to make sure that they understand that this is what we are going to do today. So I'll say, here's what we're going to do today, because they got to know that's why I'm here. I'm here to help them. So now at that point in the process, they shouldn't have any objections if you've done all the other steps beforehand correctly. So that's why it's important to do every step through the ATM, because if you don't do one of them, like if you walked in the house and you did not build rapport and they don't like you, well, by the time you get to this point where we say, what we're going to do today, they're like, yeah, right, we're not going to do nothing today. We don't like you at all. But if you build rapport with them and they're realizing how much they like each other or love each other and how much, they need this because they talked about why they need it, it just makes sense to go ahead and do it. There is no need. You already told them that there's a bunch of companies, so we're going to help them shop around. There is no objections. We've eliminated all their objections by walking them through the process. So what we're going to do today, I say, okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to figure out which one of them. My job is to help you figure out which company fits you the best, and we'll pick the company and take a simple request for coverage form and a check for the first month of payment, and we're going to mail that into the insurance company so that they can come back and make a decision that you can either have it or you can't have it. They'll come back and either say yes or no. So once they make a decision, then if they say no, then they'll mail your check back to you. If they say yes, then at that point they'll send a policy out to your house. Now, if they send your check back and they say no, then we can just try one of the other companies, because we can work with any of these companies we want to, so we can keep trying until we find one that actually will take you, okay? And I'll nod my head, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, okay. And then if they do send the check back to you, that's what we'll do. Now, once they send the policy out to you, hopefully it'll just be the first try. They'll mail a policy out to your house. And once you get that, at that point, if you want to take the benefits and like adjust them and take them up higher or down lower, that's no problem at all. All you have to do is call me after you've thought about things for a while. If you want to make an adjustment like that, just let me know. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah? Does that sound good? Okay, Mary, does that sound like that'll make you feel a little bit better than how you told me you felt before when you were saying that you'd be kicked out of the house or you'd have to sell it or whatever? Will you feel more comfortable knowing, like I like to say, will you feel more comfortable knowing that he'll be like when he passes, you'll be okay? And then she'll say, yeah. It's like, okay, any questions about this process? So if they have any objection to like a check or if they have any objection, like we don't have a checking account or we don't have checks at our house, we only have a savings account or whatever it is, that should come out right here so that I can address it and find out before I go through the whole application. Okay? So, like, I'm making sure that they understand, yes, we're taking a check. And if they say, oh, we don't have checks, okay, that's fine. We can just take the bank account information, and then they'll take the first payment out when they issue the policy, or when they receive the application, they'll take the first payment out then. And then they'll send that money back to you if they say no. But if they say yes, then you're already covered. Everything's fine. Does that make sense? I'm going to make sure that they say yes to that process right here. Because if they don't say yes to it, I'm not moving forward. I won't show them prices. I'll leave the house. There's no point. Because if they're not agreeing to it, you're just spinning your wheels, like they're literally telling you. Now, if they're just kind of saying, no, we want to think about it in a little bit, and we want to make sure, if they're saying, oh, no, we are not writing you a check today, then I'm going to leave. Okay, to be clear, I'm not going to leave if they say, well, we want to think about it some. No, I know that they need to see the prices to make a decision, so I'm just walking them through. Now, remember I said we're going to find out what program fits your budget. If we don't find something that fits your budget, of course we can't send anything in. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, okay. So, but if we find something, or when we find something that fits your budget, whatever fits you guys, obviously something's better than nothing. We can, whatever makes sense financially for now, we can start out, and then later if we want to make any adjustments, we can change down the road. So anyways, I'm trying to walk them through that whole process, depending on what they say and how they react to it. I might say different things, but does that help any, Dexter?
Yeah, it helps a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. All right, any other questions?
Hey, Justin, this is Bill Buck.
Hey, Bill.
What do you do and this is a simple question, to transition from rapport building into actually opening the ATM? What do you say? What's your transition statement there?
Well, I'll say one thing is while I'm building rapport, I already opened up to the first page. So the first page is sitting there staring them in the face while I'm talking to them and building rapport and getting to know them better.
Okay.
So typically I like to go through finding out about their relationship. And if it's a husband and wife, it's that relationship. And if it's like a mom who's wanting to leave the benefits for her kids, I'm talking to her about her kids. Just like I'm helping her think about her kids and why she cares about them in the first place. Like, and make sure she's not mad at them for, doing all that stuff behind her back last week. I'm getting her in the right mindset. How long have you guys been, how old are your kids? Are they going to college at all? What do they do for work? Especially if it's like, what do they do for work? Because then, if you find out that they're like, it's like a job that doesn't pay very well, like a carpenter or mechanic, nothing against that. I used to be a carpenter. If they have a low-paying job, then later the mom can't come back and say, oh, well, they'll be fine. They'll be fine if I don't leave them any money. They can't say that because the kids don't have any money. They're broke, right? They already told you that. So anyways, but it's like kind of multiple reasons I'm finding out about that. But a transition statement would just be something along the lines of, well, I can tell that, I like to say, well, I can tell you guys that you care a lot about your family. I mean, that's probably why you sent this card in the first place.
Good, okay.
And then you can just go right into what we do. Here's basically what our company does. And then I'll point to that first slide and just start going.
Okay, good. Justin, do you take e-apps, or are you doing just exclusively paper?
Both.
Okay. And then I think you probably already answered this a little bit, but when you get to the point of your kind of finding the pain, and they say, well, you ask what would happen if John does die. And they say, well, Barbara would be okay. She could get along, and what do you do there?
Well, one thing is don't ever say if they die.
Okay. When they die.
Yeah, there's no question, right? It is 100%, isn't it? Did they change the statistics?
I think it's still 100%.
Yeah, okay. And it's like sometimes you have a client that brings that up. They'll be like, well, if I die, it's like, wait a minute, what do you mean if you die? You get one of them get out of the grave free cards or something.
I'm sure we've all had people who have said, I'm not going to die.
Of course. That's younger.
Tell me what program that is.
By the way, I had a younger guy who was 27 this week. Anytime you have someone that's younger, and when I say younger, I mean like under 40, okay? Because people under 40, typically they don't believe they're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Typically. Some do, but some don't. But the best way in the world to get someone to think about it the right way when they're under 40, or sometimes under 45 or 50, depending on who they are. But anyways, if you get to the house and you look at them and you look at the lead, and one of the first things I'll do with them for younger people is I'll just laugh and say, John, why'd you send this letter in to us? You're not going to die. Because now I said it. And guess what young people like to do? They like to argue. So most people in the world like to mismatch you. So if you tell them you're not going to die and say it definitely like that, they're going to say, well, I could die at any moment. What are you, crazy? Now they can't come back later and say they're not going to die because they already just said they're going to die, and they have to stick with what they said because they're arguing with you, right? They got to stand their ground for whatever they said. So anyway, I promise that works a ton when you're talking to younger people. You're not going to die. Why'd you send this in? You aren't going to die. Anyways.
Good point.
Okay. Let's see. What else? What other questions?
Justin?
Yeah.
This is Karen Ozel calling. We're doing our call here. Great information. When you are finding some money for an annuity, how are you transitioning to actually getting that annuity written, getting them past the idea that it's a good idea?
Good question. I would refer you to Matt Smith, who is amazing at writing annuities, a lot better than me because I'm still working on it. I'm writing some annuities, but I'm not writing near the annuities that Matt is. So if you haven't listened to the training that Matt Smith does on BAM-FAMing, booking a meeting from a meeting to get back to the house and write the annuities, I would do that. And then just make sure you're doing it every single time. So uncover the potential annuities, get good at finding the money first, and then when you start finding the money, then just start booking appointments to go back and see him later. But Matt Smith would probably be the best training. I don't want to say anything that would mess up his training. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Nope. I have been to all of his trainings and listened to them, and just looking for even more hints on it here. So.
I'm trying to learn more from him still. So.
Yep. Okay.
I don't think I can say much of anything that he wouldn't know. So.
All right. Thanks.
Yep. All right. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Okay. All right, Justin. Well, we really appreciate you for coming on, and speaking to our agents, and we thank you so much. Does anybody have any last-minute questions for Justin? Okay. All right, everybody. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Thanks again, Justin, for coming on, and everybody make it a great week, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.